is, what snacks or sugar-free desserts do you use right now to help you curb a sweet tooth? So I'm curious, what snacks, what treats are you using to curb a sweet tooth right now? Because let's face it, we all have a sweet tooth. Just because we're on dirty, lazy keto doesn't mean that sweet tooth goes away. So I'm dying to know, what are your favorite snacks or tricks to help you manage that sweet tooth? So here's the thing. I think that in today's session, or class as you want to call it, I want to just do a brief outline. So first, I'm hoping that we can talk about why it's important to understand our sugar cravings, just in general. Two, I want to take a look at why is this topic so complicated? Because it really is. It's not that simple. It's not like, oh, just do this and then you're done. No. Sad. I know. So we do have to take a look at why maybe it's so complicated. And then third is the meat of the session. I want to give you 5 strategies of things that you can do. And this means actual practical ideas of what you can do to help yourself manage that sweet tooth. Because we all know sometimes it can get out of control. At least it can for me. I should just speak for myself, but sometimes it gets a little cray-cray. So I'm especially excited about the third section of our time today, where we not only talk about the 5 strategies that you can use to curb your sweet tooth, but also a brainstorm of some foods or activities that you might be able to try at home. And this is where you'll come in, because I want to hear some of your ideas. So type. What are those sugar-free desserts or snacks or tricks that you're currently using to help you manage your sweet tooth? So with that, I think we should dive in. Okay, now I'm not going to get sad or cry or anything, but I do just want to let you know, for me, this subject is super sensitive. I told myself I wouldn't cry. But here's the deal. When I was a little girl, like, sweets were so important to me, and I was always told I couldn't have them. I was always a big child. I was always pudgy. I was always struggling with my weight, and no one was trying to be mean to me. They weren't trying to punish me, but my family members, my loved ones, my teachers, they were all like, stay away from the sweets. You know, you can't have that. You have a weight problem. You can't have that. I constantly heard that. So one of the things I would do, because I'm a rebel, is I would take my lunch money, I would take my allowance, or I'd take quarters, from the parents when they weren't looking, and I would ride my bike through my neighborhood, across the big road that I wasn't supposed to cross because it was dangerous, right? And I'd go to this little convenience store. It was called Stop and Go. And I would buy the most horrible candy that they sold because it was cheap. And I think it was called Charleston's Chew. It was disgusting, but it was super cheap, and it wasn't anything I even liked, but it was sweet and it was cheap, and I could buy a lot of it, and then I'd bring it home and I'd hide it in my bedroom, and I'd nibble on it whenever I needed to. Now, I don't want to share the story because I'm like, oh, I'm so sad, because, it is kind of a sad story. But here's the thing. No amount of fat shaming, no amount of criticizing that my family, my friends, my loved ones had for me, none of that fat shaming, it didn't beat it out of me. I didn't feel like, oh, really? I have a weight problem? Oh, thank you for telling me. No, it wasn't like that. They tried to fat shame me, and they tried to make me feel bad for having a sweet tooth, and it backfired. So I don't expect that any of you, or even me as an adult, are going to respond any differently. So that's why I think it's important to just acknowledge the fact that, hey, we have sweet tooths, and I think that's okay. And if you have your book, Dirty Lazy Keto, Get Started, Losing Weight While Breaking All the Rules, on page 159, I have a whole section, it's 3 pages long, a whole section on basically how to manage a sweet tooth. So a lot of these tips you can find in your book, but just to highlight a couple of points for you. Got to put my glasses on. I always try to read without, can't do it. And this is at the top of page 161, and I write, acknowledging and honoring my sweet tooth helps me to be successful. Instead of running from the cravings, I plan for them. See that? I'm not like trying to pretend like I don't have it. And then also at the page 162 at the top, I write, planning to indulge your sweet tooth doesn't mean you're a failure at losing weight. On the contrary, it makes you a dirty, lazy keto hero. I love that line. It's true though, right? If you're being responsible and you're being proactive about your sweet tooth and you're making plans, like what do I have when it's after dinner and I want something sweet? Or I'm at work and I want to reach my desk for something sweet and delicious. Or it's, at a restaurant and it's dessert time. What do I do? I think that you should have some strategies in place. That way you can also enjoy. I mean, why should you miss out? Because missing out is, in my opinion, the big problem. That's why people rebel and give up. That's why people think dieting is terrible, because they feel deprived. And I don't want that to happen to you, because you shouldn't be, in my opinion. Anyway, so I feel like this is a really important topic. I don't want you feeling fat shamed. I don't want you feeling embarrassed. I want you to have a plan. You like the sound of that? I agree. So before we get to those 5 specific strategies, I want to talk about why we have sugar cravings in general. Because I think if you understand maybe why it's happening, you might feel some compassion for yourself, which is important. You're not so embarrassed or angry. You might feel compassion, and you might be able to ward it off altogether, because there might be some underlying things going on that maybe you just hadn't thought of. So first of all, here's my show and tell. What happens when you have a big meal? Now I put a turkey out here because the Thanksgiving dinner, everybody has experienced eating a big, huge meal, and then they're like, afterward, right? But even though they're stuffed and they ate this big, huge meal, half hour, 45 minutes later, suddenly you're dying for something sugary. Now, I don't know about you, but this happens to me. If I eat even a big meal full of low carb foods, like an excessive amount of foods that are still low in carb, but it's a lot of food at once, which I'm just saying I do it because I'm not a ladylike eater. So if I eat a huge meal, after Thanksgiving, even if it's healthy food, about 45 minutes later, I'll be I want something sweet. So keep that in mind. If you're struggling with a sweet tooth, it's possible that your meal size might have something to do with it. Even if you're eating healthy, low carb meals, I know some of you might be doing OMAD, 1 meal a day, or intermittent fasting, where you're maybe stopping after dinner. So those kinds of activities lend themselves to people eating maybe more than they're normally used to, which in turn causes your blood sugar to go, and then you want sweets to try to raise it up again. So keep that in mind. Number 2, here's another problem with the sweet tooth. We all love our sugar substitutes, right? Swerve, Lakanto, monk fruit, Splenda. There's so many. And here's the thing. When we start enjoying a lot of these in our meals or snacks or recipes, our body might get a little confused. It tastes like sugar. It's really good, right? All of a sudden your body might have a response with higher blood sugar. Now, I realize that's kind of not fair, right? That's the whole point of having these. However, your body gets fooled and you might have a weird blood sugar reaction. So be aware of that. These are not, yes, they are 0 net carb in terms of sweetener. When you're counting your net carbs, they're 0. But they can still have an effect on your blood sugar. Your blood might just respond the wrong way. Now, when your blood sugar goes up and gets all crazy, that's when we start craving sweets. So if you're having a lot of sugar problems, like sugar craving issues, and you're trying to get a hold of it, take a look at how many of these you're actually eating on a regular basis, because it might be just too much for you, or you just might need to back off a little bit. Sometimes it's just a matter of getting to know yourself and your own patterns. That's all it is. You just have to really be aware of it and conscious of your eating. Here's another one, which is a little strange. What if you're just thirsty? Now I know I'm busting out my cute mug. I haven't even used it yet. But sometimes if you're thirsty, your body gets really confused and it's oh, I'm hungry, therefore I want something sweet, I want something sugary. And meanwhile, your body is just thirsty. So think about that. It's possible. I should have another drink in the spirit of thirstiness. It's possible that you're just feeling thirsty. That's a quick fix, right? And then you're not screaming for sugar as often. What about if you're feeling tired? I brought out a 5-hour energy drink because, sometimes we use these. I do. Like if I'm super tired, I notice the first thing that happens to me is I want something sweet because my body knows that if I get a little bump in sugar or something sugary or sugary sweet, then I start feeling more energetic. So I'm not necessarily recommending this. I'm just saying be aware of that. If you're starting to feel tired and that's when you're craving sugar, it might be as simple as taking a rest. And then your sugar craving could go away. Just saying. It could be real. It could be a simple fix like that. That one's hard for me because my whole life I would get really tired in the afternoon and then use food, specifically high carb food. I would start snacking to try to give myself more energy. I also used to do that at night when I felt tired. I'd start eating popcorn because I love popcorn. Plus, it made me feel like a boost in my energy when I was just tired. It's like, go to bed. Just saying. So sometimes we're feeling hungry. I brought my lunch pail out. Isn't this cute? It's from Chalk Zero. Sometimes we're feeling a sugar rush or a sugar craving just because we're hungry. And maybe your last meal was too small. Maybe you're not eating a big enough breakfast or lunch or dinner. Take a look at when you're having the sugar craving in general, and then look at the meal or snack that was just previous. So the opposite could be true where it's not like you're eating a huge amount of food, like we talked about with that little turkey guy, but it could be that you're not eating enough or too much or not enough fat or not enough protein. There could be all sorts of issues going on with your lunch or your dinner. So take a look at that last meal. That could just maybe help explain some things. Moving along, hormones. For me anyway, when I experience a hormone change like an estrogen or progesterone change, or even with synthroid or, our thyroid gland, all that the whole topic of hormones. Everybody I've talked to, even me, every time I experience any kind of fluctuation in my hormones, I feel like sugar is the answer. I can't be alone in that. Like, I bet you've experienced this too, as a woman anyway. And maybe the guys too can relate. You'll have to tell us. But when we have these changes in our hormones, all of a sudden, sugar just seems like the most, desirable fix. But it's not. Anyway, what else? Are we starting to make sense here? I feel like we're kind of covering a lot of things. It's true, right? Like the eating a big meal, the sugar, we're talking about being tired or hormones or thirsty, we're hungry. So I bet at this point you're thinking, okay, fine, give me the strategies. Because you're like, I get it, right? Like you might be able to fix the sugar cravings or prevent them from happening by, maybe taking a rest or looking at some of our meals or thirstiness. But ultimately we do need some strategies to, figure this stuff out. So let's go through some of those strategies. First, this is my strategy that we'll get out the turkey again, the cold turkey method. This is like people that have ever quit smoking. If you're trying to get rid of sugar in your diet, there's one way you can do it, and it's just cut it, like altogether. Like cut it. Cold turkey. Now, obviously that might be painful for a lot of you who are used to eating a lot of sugary sweets. And remember, we're also talking about, I keep losing my goodies. If you're having sugar cravings simply because you're having too much sugar-free products, going cold turkey from those might also be difficult. But it could be the best strategy for you. I've shared that I drink like 10 million sugar-free KoolAids a day, these little guys. And part of me is like toying with the idea of going cold turkey. And then I'm like, no. I don't think I could do it. I don't know. It might not work for me. So I'm curious if that's going to be a strategy that works for you. The second one, which this is also hard for me, is moderation. Oh. You could try moderation in terms of, trying to maybe just have a little bit once in a while. Like some people like to have sugar-free sweetener in their coffee. That could work. Or maybe, using the water example, I could have maybe just one a day instead of like 10. I could do that. I don't know. Would that work for you? Some people find that works in terms of like sweets. Like for example, using a moderate amount of the real stuff. So for them, that would mean maybe like a high expensive, Ghirardelli or Lind brand real chocolate. And they would just have like a little bit every day after dinner. If that works for you, that could be a strategy. I've only really had this work for me in terms of my yogurt. I'll put a little bit with a potato peeler and I shave it into my yogurt in the morning. Otherwise, I'll just do like sugar-free chocolate chips by Lily or Chalk Zero. But, you have to do what's going to make you not feel resentful. And also you want something that's effective. You have to see what's going to really work for you. If it raises your blood sugar and then you're like, and you turn into the crazy, sugar-free sweetener beast where you just can't stand it. And you're just like, give me more. And you're starting to put it in everything. Then maybe for you that wouldn't work. You'll have to see. A third strategy that you could try is just cleaning it out, like out of sight, out of mind, right? Close your eyes, get rid of it. You don't want to look at it. If you're trying to cut back and you know what your triggers are, out of sight, out of mind. For me, what I do is I move things to different cabinets in my house. Like above our refrigerator, we have a double cabinet that I can only get to if I'm on a chair. I can still get to it. Let's be real. And I have, but it's inconvenient for me. I know it's up there. We put like chips and popcorn and stuff for the kids. And if there's candy or just basically anything that I might have trouble with, or if I saw it, I might shove it in my mouth really quick. So I hide things up there from myself. Like everyone knows they're there. They're just up top. So for me, that works. I don't see it all the time. And then I'm like, I forget all about it. So that could be a strategy for you. A fourth strategy is what I like to call planned substitutions. Like, so if you were a smoker, that would be, they chew on pens, or they chew on toothpicks, or they chew gum. So that's a planned substitution instead of having that like sugary beverage or sugary dessert. So for me, Dirty Lazy Keto really speaks to that because all the recipes are pretty much substitutions. So I can still make a delicious Dirty Lazy Keto style dessert, but I do it in a way like my birthday cheesecake, for example. That's in the first cookbook. See if I have one right here. Oh. The Dirty Lazy Keto cookbook. This was my first cookbook. I use that recipe, the birthday cheesecake, because once a year I wanted to have like a special treat. And I didn't want a real cheesecake, but I wanted a low carb version. And I didn't want to have it all the time though, because here's the problem for me anyway. Even if I do a planned substitution, like a low carb cheesecake, I will eat the whole thing, right? I will eat the whole thing, and maybe not in one sitting, but I will pretty much be obsessed with it for like 24 hours or 48 hours. I'll just think about it nonstop. And every time I go by the fridge, I'll be like, and I'll put a little bit in my cup and then, a little bite at a time. And then before you know it, it's like I've eaten the whole stupid thing. And I didn't really enjoy it. I felt guilty because I'm sneaking little bites. I can't be the only one. So that's why I call that recipe my birthday cheesecake recipe, because I can only make it once a year for me, even though it's a planned substitution. Sad, I know. And then lastly, our fifth strategy is, I call it like a combination approach. And this is where you might use some of those different strategies depending on the situation. You don't have to be all or nothing. I feel like with Dirty Lazy Keto, you can be you. There's a lot of people who are very strict on the weekdays and then they loosen up on the weekends. Okay, that could work. Or maybe, they're strict about some things and not about others. You have to figure out what's going to work best for you. There is no magic prescription that is a one size fits all. So it's important that you get to know yourself and monitor your sugar cravings, and maybe even just think about it, like, what just happened? What was going on an hour ago? What am I craving? What is it I really want? And I bet a lot of you have strategies and suggestions that you can share, some foods that work for you, or even just some techniques. I want to share with you a couple of mine. These are the tips and tricks that I really probably rely on the most for keeping my 140 pounds off. Now don't laugh, but I have a serious sugar-free gum addiction. Like, it's serious. Like, Alexa yesterday was like, your shipment of sugar-free Trident gum is getting low. Would you like me to reorder? And I was like, Alexa, when did I order it last? It wasn't that long ago. And I think I've ordered it like 25 times this year. That's embarrassing. I can't believe I told you that. Yeah, 25 times I believe I've ordered gum from Amazon. So this is probably my favorite one. Sometimes if I'm having a sugar craving, I just use a Bouillon Cube in hot water. Not even a whole one. I can just use a partial or a half. But a lot of times saltiness is what we're actually requiring or really desiring. So you might try that. And then I think everybody on the entire planet knows about me and my sugar-free Jello addiction. This is another one that I order on Amazon in bulk in a subscription. I just have to laugh at myself. And the recipe for that is online. It's free. It's the Dirty Lazy Keto Jello recipe. It is in the first cookbook, the one I just showed. But the YouTube video is like 1 minute long, and it will teach you how to make it. And it's delicious. I think I have it 4 times a week. And my favorite are probably not raspberry. My favorite's probably lime or lemon, which is hard to find, or orange. And then I just mix it with the sugar-free soda. It's fabulous. So did I give you some new ideas? Aside from eating food, which is important, I like to do a dog walk every night after dinner. That helps me when I'm starting to crave dessert. I've also taken up the ukulele, little musical instrument, to help me just to keep busy, because half the time I don't want anything. I'm just, craving sugar for absolutely no reason. Let's be real. And then another one is berries. Berries, to me, instead of having sugar-free candy, for me that doesn't really work. Those just don't cure my sweet tooth as much. But for me, I use a lot of berries as toppings. And I don't have them in a bowl all by itself because I think they're just too easy for me to overdo. I'll eat, 2 pounds of strawberries or a bushel of, anything really. Any berries are like candy to me. So instead I'll make like a topping out of it. And this is a recipe from the Dirt Cheap cookbook. It's called Lemonade Loot Strawberry Shortcake, where I make a dessert and then I use berries on top. And that way I monitor how much I'm actually eating. And that's on page 168, if you have this book. Did I give you some ideas? I hope so. I mean, honestly, these are the strategies and the tips and tricks that have helped me lose 140 pounds and keep it off. But I know that I'm not the only person with some ideas. So I want to know what you think. I just wanted to say thank you for listening. I appreciate your support. This is a community, Dirty Lazy Keto. We have to help each other. We're in this together, my friends. It's not easy, is it? We gotta support one another. So if you found today's video to be helpful, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and then subscribe to the Dirty Lazy Keto YouTube channel. Turn on your notifications so you'll never miss an update. You can also find me on Instagram at Dirty Lazy Keto. And for more information about any of my support groups or any of my books, you can always go to dirtylazyketo.com for more information. I'm here to support you. I'm here to help. I know you can do it.